tonight on our panel, we have a number of distinguished guests that are going to join us that have deep industry knowledge, deep HPC knowledge, very, very cutting edge capabilities in modeling and simulation. And so with that being said, tonight's moderator is our CEO, Matt McKee. I've had the privilege of working for Matt the last 6 years of my career. Matt's previous roles were at Accenture and MSC. And prior to that, he was at West Point. He is a leader that I've been able to learn from and somebody who is very passionate about this industry. So I'm excited to have him on the panel tonight, moderating this with our guests. So first up, we have Brandon Haugh. Brandon is the VP of Modeling and Simulation at Kairos Power. Brandon directs modeling and simulation initiatives at Kairos Power, a fluoride salt-cooled high-temperature reactor. He oversees tools and methods for reactor design, safety analysis, and material performance, ensuring advanced systems meet regulatory standards. With a career spanning a nuclear navy, commercial reactors, and advanced light water reactors, Brandon brings a deep expertise in computational methods in nuclear energy systems. His current focus at Kairos is on enabling clean energy innovation with advancing modeling and simulation to improve the quality of life for all. And, just as a side note, we know that nuclear power is something that we're all looking at in the supercomputing industry to power this next evolution in where we are all going. So thank you for being here, Brandon. Next, we have Doug Norton, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for InspireSemi. He is additionally, as a hobby, as he so lovingly calls it, the president of the Society of HPC Professionals. Doug serves as a CMO at InspireSemi, a pioneering energy-efficient accelerated computing solution for HPC and AI workloads. He leads marketing for the company's supercomputer on a chip, Thunderbird, which delivers unprecedented performance efficiency for compute-intensive tasks. Doug's career includes leadership roles at IBM, Cadence Design Systems, and Nimbix. He is the president of Society of HPC Professionals and an advisor for startups and cutting-edge computing initiatives, holding a BS in electrical engineering from the Missouri University of Science and Technology. And then last, but definitely not least, we have Srikanth Gubbala. Srikanth is the head of Global HPC IT infrastructure for Applied Materials. Srikanth is a global leader in HPC infrastructure, bringing over 20 years of experience in modernizing IT systems and delivering cloud migrations for large-scale organizations. At Applied Materials, he spearheads transformative projects to align enterprise technologies with business goals, helping engineering and business teams innovate faster. Srikanth has built a global distributed team facilitating collaboration and strengthening technology partnerships. His expertise in agile methodologies and design thinking has streamlined the internal strategic alignment. Srikanth consistently delivers impactful results across complex global initiatives. So with that said, I am going to leave it to the moderator and the panelists.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being part of that. Just a reminder to our panelists, remember we are the entertainment for the evening. All right, so one thing, strong opinions, loosely held, are very welcome, right? Like let's make sure that hopefully we have like a couple controversies that come out of this panel to kind of keep things lively for everybody. What's great about this panel is we've got a lot of very practical experience, right? So these are these are solving practical problems on the every day to push out products out into the market, to push the boundaries of innovation. So I'm looking forward to learning from everyone. We're going to start with a quick icebreaker question, though, that you did not prepare for. Favorite place to vacation? We'll start with Srikanth.
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon, all right. Doug?
Isle of Palm, South Carolina.
Oh, I've been there. Okay, yeah.
Waikiki.
All right, okay. Let's get into questions. So first, what technology, process, or methods do you feel they're the most promise for engineering and R&D in your industries? And we'll start with you, Brandon, about that.
No, it's a great question, right? There's a lot to cover. Our technology is pretty diverse. Really, for me, it's on the materials side that tends to be limiting performance of what we're trying to engineer and deploy. And so looking at advanced methods for optimization, but also surrogate data generation, right? So we can use AI methods and other fitting methods and machine learning to be able to deploy materials and regimes maybe where they haven't existed before.
I would say after being at the TSMC event last month in San Jose, Santa Clara, they had a professor from Stanford talking about the next generation of stacked semiconductor to really not let Moore's law and Dennard scaling and all that kill us, to do truly 3D packaging, right, with new materials. It was very enlightening because what I did not even realize, being a longtime semiconductor and HPC guy, was that one of the problems we have to do, put the transistors down and all the layers of metal on top versus put metal in interspersed, is because of the fact that you need well over 400 degrees C to put these things down, and that screws up the metal, right? So there's some new materials coming, right? They can allow us to truly intersperse and build truly 3D semiconductors, way taller than what we're talking about today with just putting some HBM on top or things like that. So that is really exciting. Some of that new material coming that will keep the semiconductor industry humming along.
This is like a podcast segue to Srikanth, because Applied Materials is an organization driving forward some of these manufacturing methods, especially for semiconductors. So Srikanth, what are you excited about?
No, that's the same thing. So I think the day in, day out, I go through material discovery, particle tracing, which actually, because the Moore's law, they say, okay, you can't make it denser and denser or add more number of transistors. You got to find new materials. So I think people are actually trying to look out of the box to see what they can do. Maybe they can learn from the previous data, what has been generated over the years, and mine it, add AI on top of it, and then do something breakthrough on this. So this is the place where I think that's a foundation.
I want to follow up real quick on your talk about using the surrogate model methods, especially in material discovery. I think that the entire industry is like wrestling with AI methods, right? So what is that? How is it actually going to practically apply to kind of non-LLM or generative AI use cases? Can you talk a little bit about data generation? Is this something where you think the industry is going to be able to tap into like troves of pre-existing data, or is this about actually kind of driving methods that's actually doing kind of that's creating data that then is trained on? Can you talk a little bit about the methods that as you see it, apply practically?
Yeah, so it's a great question, right? So synthetic data can come from lots of sources. Our focus area when we're talking about high temperature metallics is generating that surrogate data from really low-level models, right? So mechanistic nanoscale models that actually at the molecular dynamics level are simulating the performance of material at the conditions that you would expect to see. Our conditions are very similar to what you're doing in manufacturing of semiconductor, right? For a short period of time, you're annealing those materials at 400, 500 C. Our reactor operates at 650 C in a high neutron and gamma environment for 20 years. So it's kind of like a rocket engine flying towards the sun for 20 years. So building rockets is easy comparatively. And so that's what we're focused on. So we've worked with national labs and other researchers to go up and down kind of the length scale of those materials to understand what we know, where the data sparseness is, and how reliable can we generate that data. So then we actually take that, we take real data, we take the synthetic data, and we use really what we would call advanced machine learning algorithms to actually fit through that, to sort through what's real, what's not, and fit it to a physics-conformed model that says, hey, our knowledge of materials and constitutive modeling says it should about look like this. Is it performing? So when we look at kind of what the AI and ML is doing, we're kind of giving it some bounds of reality so it doesn't necessarily go too far off of what we think is physical.
Yep. I got a feeling that there's going to be a gravitational pull towards more these AI methods. But speaking about computing specifically, what are some of the recent breakthroughs that your organization, or that you're proud about, or either from your organization or the industry, that have come about as a result of kind of computing breakthroughs? And Doug, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so what we've done at InspireSemi is putting over 1,500 64-bit processor cores on a chip, 1,536 to be exact. And we'll put 4 of these chips on a PCIe card to give you over 6,000 cores, all FP64, when the industry has been moving more and more away, to low precision math for AI, and industry has been bemoaning this for 2-3 years minimum, right? Like I've heard so many jokes like, FP16, FP8, at some point, why use a computer? You're just guessing, right, for your simulation. And now we have FP4, which, one analyst is calling Jensen flops. Yeah, great for, LLMs and all that, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of great AI you do and help really reduce, the cycle time, right, to get quicker to your solution. But you still probably want to have a solid, double precision math simulation to do it. And oh, by the way, you're probably using foundation models, like the keynote at ISC said. We need 64-bit double precision math for those foundation models so we can do good AI. So we're part of a limited group, us and our next Silicon friends, that are actually, filling that void of FP64. So, we're going to give you over 6,000 cores of that on a card. You think about that, that would be an entire rack of 2-socket servers. So you think about that in terms of your TCO, power, cooling, internet connect, how much less InfiniBand you have to buy, or high-speed Ethernet. And then on top of that, maybe more importantly, points of failure. Right? You're squeezing all that down. It's almost like in the PC industry, when in the old days you had this big motherboard with all these discrete chips and everything, and Intel sucked it all up into the chip. And all of a sudden you had these tiny little motherboards now and all these single board computer you could go do. I think, we're kind of bringing that 20x type shrink to computing to really help people drive this and have a much more effective, much lower power environment to extend, where we have to go in that space. But our next Silicon friends have an interesting architecture as well, where they finally they say they came out of stealth, but last year they were here in a big way too. But they're coming up with this kind of data flow architecture of kind of software defined, build a process on the fly. And, at least a couple of us are filling that void, right? Which is great. And I think that's exciting. I'm watching quantum computing an awful lot. I have a lot of friends on both the software and the hardware side of quantum. We got at least 8 different hardware approaches to quantum computing. That's interesting too. It'll be another specialized accelerator, I think. So it's fun times to be in the industry with AI happening and HPC and AI augmented HPC and AI, physics AI and all that stuff. I think it's pretty great. And the industry, nature abhors a vacuum, so people are filling it.
We'll come back to quantum. Srikanth, you probably are coming at this from a little different perspective.
For us, I think well, earlier it was all about compute availability problem. Now with the cloud and all, the availability is gone, right? There is no, but scalability, elasticity was there. But I think with this, there is no more compute issues. People wanted, we were able to accommodate use cases where things rapidly come down, and you were able to fail fast. But I think towards right now, where we see semiconductor space is actually focusing on the digital twin space, energy efficiency. There is, I think, huge pressure on the fabs to reduce the energy consumption. So I think that is possible because these are age-old, like the generations of the machines that goes in there actually, doesn't change for a while. Once they go and sit, they go and sit. So I think there are more on the digital space is where. At the same time, quantum is being explored, but because quantum, the only use case what we all are hearing is chemistry. But are we there? I think more the focus is on the DFT, on the chemistry side, rather than the real to try to solve the problem of accuracy. So
yeah, chemistry is a quantum problem, so why not use quantum computing to solve it, right? It is definitely the first use case. Can I add one thing on digital twin? I heard a fantastic panel yesterday afternoon in the life sciences space.
Oh yeah,
about digital twins. Yeah, and I stayed around, talked to the one doctor afterwards, and it was fascinating because we talked about the need to do this, and you can't, the expense to do a digital twin for health, to do kind of precision medicine, we can't afford an exascale level digital twin of every single one of us, right? So there's smartness to do if you know certain genetic markers you have, you might rule things out or focus on certain things and all that. But his point really got to the full life cycle of digital twins. I never really thought about because of course in tech we're going to do it. You're going to improve this. You're going to check it and update your model. But in humans, his insight was that you need to completely come back and show the result of what the digital twin predicted and the medicine you gave, or the change of your diet or your lifestyle, your health, whatever, to reinforce that, yes, we told you to do this and here's why, and yes, it's working for you, it's not, and then update that digital twin.
Exactly.
Once you've
That's
gone
where-
through these lifestyle changes or
That's
whatever. and
learning.
Yeah.
Reinforcement. That's a pure reinforcement, where I saw that they actually start profiling patients and say, okay, what does the clinician think about this? What is this? What's the prediction versus the clinician thinking about this? So I think the digital twin is where next technology that would.
I have to think that digital twins, kind of riffing off that, have to be a huge deal, given that how early and how much we need to prove out the technology, or like get actually trust, right?
Yeah.
Don't screw it up.
Societal trust. And so what I was going to
Robust
ask you,
safety case, right? That's what we
exactly.
say.
So
Yeah.
I would think you have probably something to answer to that also. But if you have any other computing breakthroughs that you have found at your own organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we're a hardware company, right? So computing is supporting delivering hardware that people haven't done. And so I think about it as like my team and what we're doing is enabling the world's transition to clean energy. So what I'm most proud of is the milestones we've made of taking a technology that everybody thought was impossible, I'm going to say less than 8 years ago, and we're building a reactor today. So the ground is moving, the reactor building is going up, and it'll be operational in the next few years. So that's a huge milestone. I took the job I had because I thought it was just about impossible. So just being proud enough that the team that we've built can deliver hardware at that scale, at the time frame that's actually relevant, which is unusual, is impressive. As we move forward, right, and deploy technology and want to monitor its health, that's where we see the value of the digital twin. We actually use it in predicting the safety case, substantiated by validation data, right? Your twin is only as good as what you know. And then we reinforce that exactly how you guys described, but at a hardware scale, right? So we monitor and instrument the entire facility, and we look at our predictions, we look at how the twin is performing. We actually do prognostic and diagnostic data that's machine learning based on when maintenance should be done. And then we can come down and do inspections when we see artifacts. So it's actually a big instrumentation development cycle as well for these types of components that don't exist, right? Think about being able to do online UT scanning, like guided waves that they do for pipelines at 650 degrees C. We're developing that technology today. And so that will reinforce the learning of a digital twin. It's also the same with the graphite we use to make the core, right? You can't put metal in the core because the core is much hotter than the coolant. And so we have constitutive models for basically silicon grade, what we call nuclear grade graphite. So what they put in anodes or batteries and stuff, we take the entire billet and we build the inside of the reactor out of that. So we have to predict its morphology and everything with time. And we actually do what's UK have done for years, which is called trepanning, which is we actually have in situ material that we go take a sample of. We look at it, calibrate it, recalibrate the model, move forward. So that's kind of how we work with the learning and the compute at the same time.
Thank you. Srikanth, this next question is going to start with you. So in TSMC's last quarterly earnings report, for the first time they broke out accelerators, right? Or I believe they called AI, I think they called it AI accelerators. I can't remember exactly the terminology they use. And what this enabled to do is analysts could finally see whether AI was actually kind of sucking the air out of the room and actually limiting the amount of CPUs for HPC that they were manufacturing. And the result is that it was. So when you're managing an organization like you are, and there's so much exuberance around AI, how do you continue? There's still a huge amount of engineers and scientists you need to support that are still HPC, the classic HPC customers. How do you make sure you keep them supported with budgetary pressures and to invest more in AI? Organizationally, how do you maintain that balance?
So it's a balance, right? It's a balance of what we do because in this space we see wide variety of personas, wide variety of use cases, whether it is thermal, mechanical, or plasma or optical or the EDA, because it's not just the tool. We actually do more within the tool and outside the tool. So it goes that. So everything is a research. So all these comes through research. That means it's an idea. So because of this person, also what we see is that okay, how do we actually make them try this idea? How can they actually quickly try this? And that's where enabling this scalable compute, scalable with charge back, show back, the way they can actually play with it and then take the analysis, analyze it, come back again, right, and then modify it. So that's how we are actually keeping up this whole thing, because on top of this, what they're doing is now they wanted to try how can they use AI models on top of this. That's what it's. So what I'm trying to bring here is that this is an influx of existing personas or existing different multi use cases. We're also getting how they're trying to use AI, different models, whether it could be reinforcement or from the synthetic or the real data what we have accumulated over the years. Can we bring down the simulation? Can we make a faster, accurate prediction based on the data which we have generated over the years? Because there are certain chemistry simulations which goes on for months, right? So that's where what we see the inflection of AI, and it's been it's a balance. It's a balance between what they want to do with the existing influx and at the same time bring in AI into it.
What I've noticed back in my days when I was at Cadence Design Systems, right? I remember when all these, fab models, the outsourced fab model popped up, the fabless semiconductors and all that stuff. And it's kind of funny, I'm now a Cadence customer, right? But, they were just kind of an outsourced fab, and it's like, contract manufacturing for chips, right? No big deal. And now to watch what TSMC has become in the last 5 years with the powerhouse, there's a reason 92% of all leading edge chips are made at TSMC. And that is they have invested so heavily in R&D that they have surpassed, so many companies. They are no longer, that is the reason their independence plus their R&D investment is incredible, including in advanced packaging techniques and 3D stacking and all these things. So much so that the world's leader, ASE, has actually now had to kind of come in underneath TSMC and work with them because they're doing so much R&D in this space. So it's really impressive to watch what they've done, and they're using all these advanced techniques to do that, right, with HPC and AI. And it helps explain too why they gave our company, a couple 3 years ago now, we had to fight for them because we're this small little kind of startup company, and they've given us access to the very leading process nodes, right? We were all set to do this next chip at 4 nanometer, and they're like, we want you to do 3, or you should consider 2. And we're like, what? So then, you have to sign like 4 different levels of NDA to get, the latest PDKs. We've done that, and they've given us all these libraries, and they're pushing us, as a startup company to use their latest process nodes because they want to see us and others in this space deliver really leading edge HPC and AI technologies because they see the market, they see the growth, and they'll use it themselves too.
So, Brandon, you're running an engineering organization. You have very practical timelines that you have to hit, right? Like, you can't spend too much time playing around with methods, right? Or kind of doing, especially in the position you're in, like you've got on tight timelines, right? To make this work. How do you balance the time to develop new methods with engineering and also kind of get the kind of standard simulation and engineering workloads done?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, right? And it's really comes down to the philosophy of the organization. So how my team was built was kind of twofold on that. So my job is to look forward. So me and some of the leaders that I've hired are to look forward and trying to advance the methods. So because the timelines are tight, we eat margin, right? So we eat margin to deploy the technology quickly, And what that means is there's lots of safety in it, right? It's super safe. And so we can get it out on the field. It's easy to prove out. We know it's going to work, right? To get to more commercially acceptable, viable, longer-lived products, we need to recover that through advanced methods. And so we have this two-prong approach where we got to hit the timelines, and then we're looking forward at the same time. And that's really where I see our use of compute going up. So the first stage where we're getting this first reactor built was just about hitting time, right? Like I have talked to the CEO every week about all the margin he's eating to hit this timeline so that he's aware that there's investment here to get that back. And then what we're doing now is we're going through the first step of margin recovery for the second reactor. This will be the first commercially viable reactor that will provide power to Google. And that's going to go online only 2 years after the test reactor. And we're going through that phase now, which includes millions of dollars of testing, additional irradiation methods. We're going to be putting materials in reactors across the world, actually, different test reactors to advance it, because I need the data to validate the methods. Like, we have a really good intuition about it, but to get past the regulatory scrutiny, to convince the health and safety of the public is protected, I need that data. So we do this kind of two-step march. And the investors are really aligned with that, right? Because it's very practical. It's just like airplanes, just like cars, just like boats, just like everything that you've ever seen built. The first one kind of sucked, but it got there, right? Because then you get the revenue going. You need to have the vision to make the next and the next and the next. You could look at SpaceX. It's just the same. Falcon 1 was a turd, right? It was the dumbest rocket nowadays a kid builds in their backyard, right? But it gave them the foresight and the revenue to take those steps. Right, and that's kind of, we're emulating that philosophy, not that we're building rockets, but it's get it to market, prove that you can do it, and then build.
So that's counterintuitive. A business guy, normally early adopter pays premium, right? And it trickles down over time. But, you know, it makes sense the way you explained it there with the airplanes and the Falcon 1 and all that.
Yeah, so we bear all the risk for the initial deployments. We're building the reactors, we're paying for them, we're the customer.
Kudos to you. You have your investors back you on that. That's amazing. You must have good investors.
Yeah, when you talk about infrastructure and energy, if you think you're going to make money the first time around, you shouldn't be in the game.
Let's look a little bit toward the future. So beyond what we may be doing right now, use cases and technologies of the future. What new architectures, whether it's quantum, we already heard about digital twins and the importance, and we know that I would say that's kind of like here today, right? Where we're implementing digital twins today. What are some things into the future, maybe hype now, we're not sure it's real. I'll start with you, Doug, on that. What are you looking forward to the future?
Well, quantum is interesting, right? I think it's kind of interesting that, just thinking quantum has shown big advances in certain things. So about 5 years ago, I think, there was a UT student who was going for his PhD, and his professor, he said, I got to do this because it can only be done on a quantum computer. And he said, well, prove it. He goes, well, it's obvious. We know this is one of only like 2 or 3 algorithms that have to be done on a quantum computer. He said, well, if it's that obvious, prove it. So the guy goes off, he works on it, he comes back, and lo and behold, he thinks about the problem completely differently in a quantum kind of way and says, wow, he achieved that result on classical HPC just by changing his whole approach to it, right? And so scratch that one off the list for, quantum advantage. I think quantum's going to make us all think different. I think there's going to be a lot of breakthroughs. We'll see what happens in that space. But in the meantime, it's what I said earlier about the whole 3D thing, building truly 3D chips that are more like a cube versus, this little bar, right? I think that's going to, if we can start to layer transistors and metal and layer this and new memory technologies like this resistive memory they're talking about, there's some really big breakthroughs that just when we thought we were at the end of the rope for silicon, probably not, right, for chips. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Srikanth, supporting a very complex, large engineering organization, what are you looking ahead to?
I'm also looking into the quantum computing because that's where we really wanted to get. I think the digital twins will play a major role in the next few years, but the quantum, I think things will evolve. Firstly, today they have 8 different methods, which they will finalize to one methodology of how to do it, and then they would actually also, I think the HPC and the quantum will go hand in hand it'll become a fusion. That's what I foresee. But the innovation will continue with more on visualization. There will be more technology moving towards simulating things. Do it because of all these, and because I think
Far
it will
less
be,
physical testing. You used to see things like
I
simulations
think
takes over
today
everything, yes,
they will slowly get all the sensors, so the IoT will play a major role. The data will be on the data warehouses, and from there it feeds into. So the whole ecosystem will there. But I think it's an evolution, and for all this to happen, now there's a focus on the data management. That's where everybody is actually focusing on. Because for all this to make to happen today, the source is in some place, simulation happens someplace, your data is scattered. What we have seen is that every scientist does its own way. Same workflow, same thing, but he will use his own tweak. That's where it makes it unique. And that's how organizations have been. But at the end of the day, data is with him. So I think what we see is that there will be more and more efforts on data consolidation. And then this will mature the digital twins, which will eventually, by the time the quantum chemistry problems, quantum computing problems solve, that's where the thing will come.
If I can add a little controversy, one thing, you're spot on with the data management, especially with the explosion of intelligent, very deep edge devices. And some of the concerns I've heard, in people I work with adjacently in the society is the spoofing of data. So if all of a sudden you've got data that gets corrupted at the edge and people are trusting all that data come from these sensors in some way, it's a big problem. So we got all kinds of data security and management issues coming our way. You got to be very careful in what you trust.
Just wait till the second panel. We'll talk about security. Red, what are you looking forward to?
No, I think that mine is similar, right? Like we're at the point now where we're generating hundreds of terabytes of data a month. And so just getting control of that, right, and making sure that we're using it so it's valuable. It's really easy to generate data, both simulation data, process data, manufacturing data, and then runtime data on the equipment. But getting that all to come back where it's actually useful to an engineer who doesn't understand how all that works. It's been a challenge, right? We've invested in several different areas to try to do that. I don't think we found the sweet spot yet. So I think it's something I'm looking forward to is kind of people's ideas and advanced methods of that on data aggregation, data validation, so that we do have security, but we also want to validate. Our motto is kind of trust but verify. And so, and those come into kind of some of your models, right? You can actually run models through, and if data are outliers, you start asking yourself questions, right? So there's this kind of loop that goes through. Kind of my, I guess, ultimate goal would be having an operating facility where I'm getting real-time data and training the model and predicting in time. So like 800 faster than real time, right? So I can predict out and look for the next thing that might happen. That's what I would love to see that. I think it's a little ways off, but I think we're on the right path.
We're going to go to the last couple of questions. I'm going to go ahead and make an executive decision that we're going to move faster to the dinner course.
Sure.
So for the audience there. So we are going to cut off the Q&A, but I do have a couple questions that I want to finish up with. Brandon, first, and these are unprepared, so just be prepared. What's one thing that we all need to know about nuclear energy and the future of nuclear power that this room probably doesn't? Now, I know we've got a bunch of really smart folks here, especially from the Department of Energy and other places like that. So it may be not something that they don't know, but what do we need to know, like looking forward about not just powering data centers, but just like the future of clean energy that, given that feels like we're in a little bit of a resurgence, or a lot of a resurgence, I would say, especially with the 3 Mile Island announcement and things like that. What do we need to know about this future?
Well, I mean, the first thing I tell people is learn, right? There's a lot of things that can scare people about, nuclear weapons, et cetera. That's not what nuclear energy is about in terms of electricity production. The second part I like to tell people is about energy density, right? So, you can make wind turbines and solar panels and everything. They're extraordinarily energy intensive to produce, and they're extraordinarily undense in terms of their energy production. Nuclear power, right, if you look at just a conventional plant, not even advanced plants we're doing, a uranium fuel pellet is about that size on your pinky. It will roughly generate all the energy you'll ever use in your lifetime in that small amount, right? And so that varies, right? There are different use cases. Some people, Americans, are more energy intense than others. But I think that's what matters, right? You can solve a lot of the problems related to what people worry about in terms of waste, radiation, and things like that. But, for humans to survive, if humans want to be multiplanetary, which some do, energy density is key. You're not going to get there. There won't be wind blowing in places you go. There won't be sun shining on some days. And so it has to be part of the mix. It doesn't mean it's the solution to everything, but I just suggest people just think about that. It's an interesting proposal. There are particular use cases and military applications in the Navy. It was chosen for those specific reasons, right? You can run an aircraft carrier for 50 years and it doesn't need gas. They put gas on it for the planes, and now it can hold a lot more gas because they're not using it to make it go. It's just an interesting example of that paradigm. So I encourage people to learn about it. There's lots of different technologies. They all have their different challenges and advantages in terms of deployment. Materials challenges are actually 99% of them. But yeah, learn and explore, ask questions.
Great. We're going to have one fun question to end it. So what's, whoever wants to answer first, what's one book, movie, or podcast that you would recommend?
I'm not into anything.
Nothing. No reading. No podcasts.
No, I spend more time learning about outdoors. I'm an outdoor guy. Or else I learn technology.
Okay.
That's
Yeah. Doug,
Chip Wars.
Chip Wars, great recommendation.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
There you go. Okay, let's have a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much.